Hello and welcome to this special show that we have put together for you at Moneycontrol. Now, it's often said while it's not challenging for women to enter the workforce, what's really challenging is staying in the workforce. And today we have four such leaders who've managed to stay, grow, and attain leadership positions in India's largest software company, TCS, which is also the most valuable IT company in the world. I'm really looking forward to this conversation to understand what motivates them, what we can all learn from their journey, and the challenges that they faced along the way. So allow me to introduce you to my panel. We have Shilpa Rao, who is the head of AI-powered strategic intelligence, Optumera. We have Prabha Thomas, who is the VP and Chief Risk and Compliance Officer at TCS. We have Shalini Mathur, who's the President and Business Head of TCS's International Public Sector Business Unit. We also have Leena Walavalkar, who is the Chief Innovation Evangelist, Business and Technology Services, TCS. All of you hold such vast portfolios, so I literally had to refer to whatever was written down so that I don't miss out on any business or P&L function. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on Moneycontrol, especially in a week where we are ringing in Women's Day. Now, of course, there are questions on whether Women's Day is relevant or not. But, when I see four women like this achieve and attain leadership positions in a technology company, it's certainly very heartening. So let me just start with your own journey, the challenges, and what motivated you. I'm going to start with some of the more veteran members of this panel. Prabha, if you can take that away. Chief Risk and Compliance Officer, veteran of TCS, I think, for decades now. Take us through what it's been, because I was just going through the stats, and while TCS has almost 50% women at junior levels, even at the leadership level, it is 13%, which is better than what some other companies have. So, what was the journey like?
Yeah, thank you, Chandra, for inviting me and my colleagues today. I've been with TCS for, like you said, decades. It's 27 years. And I joined this company right after my MBA. So I joined from campus. And when I joined, we were around 3,000 people in TCS. And today we are talking about, 4.6 lakh.
Nearly 5 lakh, yeah.
So what I've seen the company grow from, from the day when I was a trainee to where I am today has been a phenomenal journey, and we have seen the different stages of how the company has grown. I've had opportunity to work in very many different fields. In those days when we used to join, you didn't have many career streams or definitions of career streams, more than 25 years ago. So everybody joins at the you start in the technical field as a programmer. So even though I came after my MBA, for a year, I actually had to do programming, right? Then I moved into, project management and account management roles. I had the opportunity to work in with various customers in various cities of India. I worked in multiple cities in India and done a little bit of on-site. And the beauty of TCS in all these years is it's almost like every 3 years I change my job. So there are so many opportunities that it gave me chance to do different things every 3 years. So I moved from IT delivery to project management, to program management, to sales. I've moved into corporate roles in quality assurance, delivery excellence, and now in risk and compliance. So the beauty of it is it has allowed me to see the company from very many different angles, see the organization, understand business, and today gives me a perspective of how the whole business is run. It's been a very exciting journey. Not that it's been easy, and there have been no, times when we have thought about, what do I do or do I continue and things like that. There have been moments like that, but it's been completely enriching given the culture of the organization we are in and the fantastic team and colleagues that we have.
Well, 27 years means you would have worked with like all four CEOs of TCS, which is,
right.
FC Kohli, yes. Ramadurai, N. Chandra, and Rajesh Gopinath.
That is right.
That's quite remarkable. Shalini, take us through your own journey, because you head a P&L function. You are the in terms of heading up the public service, public sector unit. So tell us about the challenges there. And, again, like Prabha, have you also come to this after doing a series of roles and functions? How has it been?
Yeah, pretty much, Chandra. Thank you for having me here today. And I have been with TCS for now exactly 3 decades. And
Oh my God, I have
I,
all the veterans of TCS on this
I
panel.
lead the public sector business for TCS, across major markets other than India and the US. And in this function, I engage with government departments, be it federal, state, or local governments, and help them, in their digitization journeys, help them in their transformation journeys, help them explore the art of the possible as they look to provide, superior and futuristic citizen services, or leverage technology for their own internal interconnected departmental use. So I think it's a very exciting role that I'm doing at the moment. And I think from a journey perspective, if I say, pretty much like as Prabha said, I started off, in the early years of my career. I did my post graduation from Bombay University in computer applications. I had a stint with the Mafatlal Consultancy Services for about 2.5 years. I then joined TCS, and pretty much as a programmer, analyst, and have grown through various roles. So after a programmer, you're an analyst. I did a technical architect role several times. I was a program manager. So I think that's the beauty of TCS. You grow with the organization. I've pretty much grown with the organization. There has never been a dull moment, and taken on a lot of challenging opportunities that have come my way. Prior to this role, in fact, going back to the early 2000s or the late 90s, when the internet era was at its boom, I just thought, let me do something new. And I went on to, join the internet group, or the EBIS group, as we called it in those days. And that was a great learning experience, learning new technologies, getting into supply chain, getting into CRM solutions, getting into, the internet-based solutions. And then later on, I moved on to different domains. I was in retail, I was in high tech, and more recently in the public sector domain. So I think, yes, it has been an exciting journey. A couple of years ago, I took on the challenge of, leading India's largest and most successful transformation program, that is Passport Seva. So I think, it has been a
So we
fantastic
have
journey.
you to thank if there's smooth, delivery of passports.
It's been
Because,
a great
I've gone
experience,
there to
great
get
learning.
my passports renewed and it was a very smooth experience. So thank you for that, Shalini.
Thanks, Chandra. Thank you. I think it has been a great success, and I think that's what motivates you, right? I think it's the challenges that you take on, and the opportunity to do something, every now and then, to learn something new, and that's how you grow, both professionally and personally. And I think that's been my journey at TCS. Very, very exciting. And I'm really grateful to all the opportunities that TCS had to offer me along the way.
Right.
So
Let me
thank you.
come to you, Leena and Shilpa. You guys are really in the cutting edge of technology. Leena, for example, you're the Chief Innovation Evangelist. You work with startups, with academia. And Shilpa, you head an AI-powered strategic intelligence product called Optumera. So, how interesting or challenging is it to work on these new tech or future tech initiatives in a company as large as TCS, which has sort of earned or still continues to earn a majority of its revenues from IT services? How does it fit in? Why did you guys choose to do this within TCS and not perhaps in a startup or in a venture capital firm or something else? Maybe Shilpa, you can start, and Leena can be in.
Sure. Thank you, Chandra. So it's a very, very interesting question that you're asking. So my role currently is of an product head of an AI-powered strategic intelligence suite, as I said, Optumera. The product essentially is implemented for Fortune 500 companies. It helps them to understand space, mix, price, supply chain, and make these decisions leveraging the power of AI. And I would say we are like a startup within TCS. So, and it actually started as a startup journey, right? So it started with a bright eureka moment, and this was when I was working on my very first project in UK. And at that point in time, and this is like, pre-smartphone days, I used to spend a lot of time waiting for a bus in a grocery store. And what I used to do is just observe, and I was just fascinated with all the products which are there, just arranged so beautifully. And what I saw is that one of the store associate every day used to throw away, like, boxes and boxes of ready meals. And coming from a family where food waste is like criminal, it
Yeah.
had to see it, just boxes going away. And then I went up to him and asked him that, why are you doing this? And the reason that he told actually became the idea that started Optumera. And then I came back and worked with our, innovation labs, our R&D teams. And then it started as a journey. Also, it had to kind of go through all its phases, right? So when you have an idea, you have to really bake it in. You have to really understand and vet it with customers. And we were lucky because we were, as part of the innovation lab, had a lot of customer visits. So we kind of showed it to them. They liked it. We got our initial buy-in. And then we participated in a lot of client hackathons. So that was also exciting, to get the initial funding, to get started with the product. So that's been a journey. And then now it has, come to a place where it is a business line for TCS. And what started as an idea, now it has grown into a full-fledged suite, and it has delivered fantastic business benefits to its customers. So it's been exciting.
So you're basically an intrapreneur, so to speak.
Entrepreneur, absolutely.
What about you, Leena?
Yeah, Chandra. So I think, as you said, when you're working at the cutting edge of technology, never a dull moment. And when you're shouldering a responsibility of, giving that kind of a technology foresight to the organization, and essentially that's what my job is, getting that forward-looking view, spotting opportunities at the intersection of business and technology, and actually translating a lot of that into possibilities for the future that actually bring value to our customers. And given that technologies change all the time, like I said, there is never a dull moment. Along my career in TCS, I've played a variety of roles too. So I started very much as a researcher in the innovation lab in TCS. So rolling up the sleeves, hands-on coding, and really getting close to technology, all the way now to actually deciding sort of the strategic direction that we should take in terms of future products and services, and also building a very well-balanced portfolio that is based on the outcomes of IP and innovation. So it's been an exciting journey throughout.
Right. Prabha, a few years ago, I think it was Indra Nooyi who said that, women can't have it all because the biological clock is at conflict with the career clock. So as someone who has spent 27 years in an organization, are there tips and tricks that you can share in terms of coping mechanisms, how you managed to stay the course throughout? And you also said that you've moved cities and, taken on multiple roles.
Yes. So I think once you cross, 5 years, 10 years, and you have a family, the things start getting really challenging for women, and I guess the men too, in some ways. Now the question is, can women have it all? I strongly believe that if you want it, you can, but you may not get it all at the same time. You may have to prioritize what you need, today or tomorrow or next year. But the important thing is, if it's something you really want to do, I think we all go for it. There has to be a support system. Obviously, nobody exists alone or can work alone, whether it's at home or in the office. So definitely having a team. When I say a team at home, it's your family, your spouse, your children, whether it is relatives whom you have, neighbors you have, or you may not have anybody. Like in my particular case, I'm not from Maharashtra, but I'm in Mumbai. I don't have relatives in Mumbai at all. So it's just me and my small family, right? Spouse and the 2 children. So then you have to depend on, when the children are small, you may obviously need someone to look after them. A primary caregiver has to be there if you are putting in long hours at work. So you have to balance that. You may have to do a little bit of give and take. But I think in the long run, if you know what you really want and what's priority for you, you will act in that manner and get what you want. That's my strong belief. So I always tell people that, well, maybe this year, a particular year when a child is very small, may not be a year they can, do something maybe on the career side. It all depends. It all depends on the individual as well. There are some women who can do everything, even with a small baby. There are people who may even, we all have taken calls with babies in our laps. So it depends, but it's a personal choice. But I think the point is, if you want it, you can do it, right? You have to find the ways and means. You need to have support in the office as well. If you take a company like TCS, the flexibility that we have is amazing, right? Even before, and I'm not talking about flexibility because of work from home, right? Even before COVID, the kind of time you want to put in, the time you want to take calls. Maybe you're working with your customers who are in the US time zone, right? So how do you manage a flexible day when you have that? There are all this can be worked out. That's the main point I want to share here. The other point also is that there are things you have to accept, that maybe you have to outsource some of your work, okay? And this is especially on the personal side. And that's okay, right? Now, if you feel that, no, I only should cook and I only should clean and I only should do my office work and I should do my teach my kids, if you have that, then it is going to be a bit difficult. It's okay to outsource. So thankfully, we are in India where we get a lot of help, at least most of us. So use the help that you can get, and that's okay. There may be a little price to pay in terms of privacy, maybe. For example, in my case, I had a 24/7 live-in maid till the time I think my first child was 15 years old. But I needed that because otherwise I couldn't, do the kind of work I was doing in TCS. I needed to be sure there was somebody at home to take care of the kids. So it's possible to do it. It's a matter of what's your priority. That's all I would say to everybody out there.
Right. Shalini, the thing is, we are so often told, oh, women are the best multitaskers in the world. So we end up believing that we must do everything. You have to be 100% in whatever you do. Otherwise, there's this guilt syndrome that kind of creeps in. And as Prabha said, it is okay to outsource some of the things that are not core to you, or, whatever that is. So again, are these challenges that you have coped with, and then you finally decided that, this is not a priority or a core area, that, this can be outsourced? Because I think multitasking is often confused with, doing everything.
It's a good question, I think, Chandra. I think very true. I think we as women, I think a lot of it is imposed, upon ourselves by ourselves, right? And we want to be superwoman. We want to do everything. I want to do the best, and I believe only I can do it, right? So that is something that is a syndrome that we all women typically tend to have. But I agree that we need to decide on our priorities. We often hear about work-life balance. We also hear about the poor woman, the child is not well, and she needs to take a day off. But in my career, what I believe is, I think it's the same for a man, and I think it's the same for a woman. So I think very often, if the wife is not well, the spouse needs to take a day off, or if the mother is not well, or the child is not well. So I think it is the same. It is the same situation, whether you look at it from a guy's point of view or you look at it from a woman's point of view. In my case, I have been lucky. I have had a very good support system, definitely at home. I have my mother-in-law. And I have had situations, where I have made a choice. I have traveled abroad with my little son when he was very young. And I just, took my mother along with me once. Once I took my mother-in-law along with me. So, you kind of, you learn how to live or how to balance, what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I think each one has to make that choice for themselves. There is no, one recipe or, a secret sauce that, would kind of fit for everyone. And I think depending on the situation that you are in, depending on your own family system, your own support system, your ecosystem, I think it's for us. But yes, we can do it. I think it's the belief that we need to have, that if we have chosen a particular path and, we want to go ahead in our careers, we want to do certain things. I think it's the belief that we can do it. And coming to TCS, I think, I have had a very, very good support system at TCS. So when I was expecting my son, I think, and this was long, long ago, we were not, used to having laptops and internet connections, in our homes. And, it's so easy to work from home nowadays. But at that time, my boss, he said, it's totally up to you. He gave me a laptop in those days when no one had a laptop. And, I had the flexibility of timing. He said, if you're not feeling well, you want to work from home, you want to come half day, you want to come full day. And I think the peace or the mental peace that I had because of that, I think is amazing, right? Because you have the backing and the support, and the confidence and the trust that your boss has that, you are going to deliver, to your best of abilities in your current situation. So I think that is it. And I think the other thing which has helped me throughout my career, of course, is, continual learning. So I think that is another thing that TCS encourages us. So while we say that okay, we are bogged down with our homes and our jobs, I think even during those years where women are going through those stages in their careers or in their personal lives when they find it difficult, TCS has got several ways and means to engage and keep women engaged with the organization. And I think that's something which is a really a forward-looking initiative, which kind of keeps you connected to the organization, keeps you abreast of what's going on. It kind of helps you to stay in touch, right? And that is so important, especially when you come back, after a long break. And I think some of these have helped me and many others like me in the organization.
Right. Prabha, I think you wanted to add a point. So
Yeah, Chandra, you mentioned the word guilt when you were just speaking. So I just wanted to make a point on that. You see, as women, I think all of us at some point of time or the other have felt guilty, right? Because either you can't, there's an open house at school and you have a very important client meeting and you can't go. So you feel guilty. Or you missed some other events, or you missed some spending the sufficient time maybe with your parents or old parents or children. So there is guilt that I think we all feel. But I want to make a point here. It's okay to feel guilty. That's okay. It happens. That's a natural thing sometimes, given the environment we have been brought up in. But the most important thing is that guilt should not last beyond a day, right? So I tell this to many of my mentees who talk to me. Never feel guilty about being a working woman. Never. That guilt lasts maybe for a day, and that's fine. That's natural. That's okay. But you should not carry it. And I will tell you that the children of working mothers. My mother was working. My grandmother was working. I'm telling you that the children of working mothers grow up to be very independent, and I think they really take pride in seeing their mothers, what they have achieved and what they have done, and the
I'm very
independence.
glad to hear that. So that's what I'm going to tell myself when I see my two kids. Yeah, that's a brilliant point, Prabha, because this is something that we constantly struggle with, and I don't know. I think women tend to naturally feel more guilty than men. I don't know if it's the way we are wired, but Leena, we were talking about remote working. I mean, Shalini referred to the fact that how it's become easier now. The big question is it going to lead to more female participation in the workforce? I mean, TCS itself has a target by 2025 in terms of the percentage of people who will work from home vis-a-vis office. But I've been speaking to CEOs in the last week, women founders and CEOs, and they were telling me that equality in the work at home is as important as equality in the workplace, because increasingly women around the world are perhaps working harder than they ever have. They also have to juggle responsibilities at home with work from home. So how do you see this playing out? Again, is it a very subjective thing that depends on a support system that each person has?
No, I agree, but certainly there is an advantage. I mean, technology is helping us in that matter. And I think the point that Prabha made earlier of guilt, having to walk away from your office at 3 o'clock just because you have an hour's appointment at a PTA meeting or whatever. I think better being able to better manage time is becoming possible because of technology and remote working, and many other ways. It sort of has created a level playing field now. So if you look at it from that perspective, certainly it will encourage more women to join, and it will encourage more women to stay. So because many of them, in the act of balancing their responsibilities at work and at home, prefer to sort of then just dedicate their time to one or the other. I think that balance has become much more feasible now. So we do expect a lot more women to be able to stay, and as long as there are opportunities provided, I think there is no limit in them staying or growing in the organization.
Right. Shilpa, I'm going to come to you. I think it was Sheryl Sandberg who said this a few years ago. She said the most important career decision that a woman makes is who she decides to marry. So, how relevant is that today, or are men more conscious? People talk about equal parenting and equal partnership and everything. So, what is your take?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say I've been lucky where my partner is, equally contributing to the things that we are doing. Because with TCS, I mean, just before the pandemic, was traveling almost 15 days a month. So, I've been traveling all the while. So it is a balance that you need to kind of maintain, both, looking at home and also your work, and then not having the guilt of actually working. So I completely agree that it is a balance that you need to make. But more and more, it is about understanding what your priorities are and how do you balance your priorities, because it is important. And at various time, these priorities change, right? So if somebody is not well at home versus, you have to kind of go to catch a movie with somebody. So the priority levels also change. So how do you kind of look at that becomes important. And more and more with the awareness, there is a change which is happening in the culture. So we are seeing more equality everywhere else also. And at TCS, we have a lot of mentoring and coaching programs which TCS offers. And this is not just at the leadership level, but at every level in the organization. And a lot of these coaching programs are really looking at, how do you kind of also manage your personal time, your personal life, and also how do you kind of deal with biases. So that's also been something which has helped us to really balance both and integrate, I would say, both work and life.
Right. Prabha, you've been telling me about what you tell your mentees in terms of how they should approach work, the women that you work with. But are you kind of seeing a change in attitude from the time you've joined 27 years ago, 90s, and then the last decade and this decade? Are you seeing an attitudinal shift in the way women approach work, in the way they are able to assert themselves, ask for what they want? Because that's one more thing. People say that women don't ask for what they deserve or ask for what they should be getting at the workplace.
I definitely think so. I think over the years, if you see, women have, and in TCS, if you see, there have been so many women who have, grown up, and even we have looked up at, other people more senior to us in the company as we grew, both at men and women, and learned from them. And today's young women definitely, I think, know what they want. They are not hesitant to, discuss it out openly. I think in the earlier days, I don't think women discussed it that much. They may have just decided to leave the workforce and go, right? Because they feel that they're just not able to manage it. But we find more and more people, they're willing to talk about it. They want to talk about it, and they ask us for, how do I manage? I don't want to leave my job, but I have all these problems at home, right? How do I manage? But I don't want to leave my career. So that statement, but I don't want to leave my career, comes out very strongly, and they, want to look at how they can do it. Now, I mean, we know that, whether to get married or whether to have kids, and these are all big decisions, I think, in today's generation, right? Maybe when we were younger, it was all, expected, and it used to kind of, I don't think we talked about it a lot, but today's generation think about it. It's a decision that they make, right? And sometimes there is a kind of awakening that the kind of turmoil that is going on in their minds, the younger generation, is very deep. I personally had this experience around maybe 7, 8 years ago, when a team member of mine came and said that she is expecting her second baby. I said, "Oh, wow, congratulations. I'm very happy for you," and all that. And then she says, "I'm very disturbed." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I don't see how I'm going to manage a second child, because I have these other problems at home, and I want to keep my job. And so my husband and I are thinking of not having the baby." I mean, and then she says, "But I'm so troubled. I want to talk to you." So I was shocked and overwhelmed that, she actually wanted to talk about it, because it's very personal, right?
Correct.
But the point is, we talked about it for a long time. And I said, "Look, the company will support you. You want to continue your job? Please do." So we talked, and then she decided finally. She took a year off. The TCS allowed that, and then she came back, right? And then she came back and joined back, and she has 2 great kids. So the fact is that such deep turmoil, which we may not always think that it goes so deep. It's life, changing decisions people are having to make because they want to keep their job, right? So that's the level of turmoil which is there in today's generation. So it's
Right.
important to talk to them, guide them. And I think in TCS, we have a lot of
Right.
flexibility
In fact,
and women-friendly policies.
Right. In fact, you've actually led me to my next question, Shalini. Do you think the current generation, I mean, it could be millennials, it could be Gen Z, they overthink things a lot? Because, I mean, my mom would have a much more casual approach to parenting than me, perhaps. I don't know if it's because information overload, or we tend to, worry a lot compared to the previous generation. So, do you think sometimes, women or young girls need to stop, perhaps overthinking a lot and go with the flow? That might also help them in sustaining a long career, and not, give up or quit at the first obstacle or at the first challenge.
So I think, Chandra, the way it goes is that today, there is an overload of information, right? And the first thing that somebody does is, go to Google and see what somebody else did, or, what is the advice available on Google. And so, you get confused, because, you'll find, pros and cons of every decision or everything that you are thinking of. So I think that's the tendency today. I think, but on the contrary, I feel, young girls or boys as well are a lot more open today. And I think they're a lot more open to discussing, amongst friends or amongst colleagues, or, as to what their personal situation is like. And they're also a little impulsive in their decisions. So when they're taking a decision, they may not think long term. And they'll say, okay, this is, let me just take the decision. Possibly because, they're able to take a lot of more risk, I think, than what we were ready to take when we were younger. So they take a lot more risk. They're ready to, leave the job. They don't mind. They said, "I don't mind leaving my job. I'll get another one tomorrow," right? So it's a multitude of things. So I think it's it's the way they are wired, of course. The ecosystem in which they are growing up, the ability to take risk, the ability to take those impulsive decisions if they want to. And I think a lot more confidence that they have in the way they have grown up. So I think it's a multitude of factors, the way they behave, and the way, probably we were more risk averse, and, we were more straight-jacketed in our approach. And I think possibly also because there are so many opportunities available today. So
Right.
I think if it's not, okay, if I don't do this, I can do something else. It's not about, okay, just doing what I set out to do. If I want to change my profession, I want to, change my job, I want to do something else. So I think it's a host of, so to speak, a number of things in their mind, which go on all the time, which force them to think in different directions. And sometimes it's, more about mentoring, more about counseling, and, more about guiding them. And, they may or may not choose to take that guidance, right? But yeah, I think it's the, it's the world in which we're living in today.
Right. Leena, the moment you mention, oh, you have 5 women in the team, people immediately ask, do they get along? Are there fights? Do they, work against each other? How do you really battle this perception that, women can be in leadership roles and get along at the same time without stomping each other or trying to stamp each other out?
Yeah. No, I mean, because we have such a large percentage of women in the organization, it's sort of all very organic in TCS. So there aren't really any of those hard boundaries per se. But I think we do have our own unique strengths as women, right? I mean, when multitasking we talked about, and it's sort of a cliche. But even otherwise, I mean, if you talk about empathy, listening abilities, which are very important when you're actually building a team, when you're creating your own networks, right, which are important for your growth. As long as you play to those strengths and the organization, of course, supports you with all the opportunities that are required there. I believe it's. I mean, whether it's a networking opportunity within a group of women or with a very diverse group, it's pretty much the same. So I think because we're such a large percentage, for us, it's very much at home here.
Right. And Shilpa, in terms of the awareness with respect to gender bias, implicit, explicit, again, is that, tied to organization culture, or is there just more awareness today?
Absolutely. So there is a lot of awareness today, and we are making it a conscious way in which we can structurally approach this. Because, see, as humans, we are all exposed to biases. We all have our conscious and unconscious biases, and you can't do anything about it, but understand that there is a bias, and understand that why you're making a decision, is it because of some preconceived notion, and just be open about it. That essentially helps. And what we have gone through is, in fact, all of us have gone through a very structured program in understanding these biases, to really understand that when you make a decision, or when you are giving a feedback, or when you are saying that do it this way or the other way, do it and don'ts, there is a certain bias that is there. So how do you understand that? And also when you mentor, so we have a coaching for workplace as a program, where as a mentor also you are kind of trained that how do you mentor somebody, because we come with our own colored glasses, and give suggestions which you're not supposed to, right? So a role of a mentor is to ask questions, and ask questions in the right way and without having those biases. So that's we've been working very very focused and structured on this, and in fact all of us are getting trained on how do you do all of this, because that's very important. It is about training, I would say, and
Right.
usually these topics are not talked about, so it is about training.
Right. As we wrap up, I mean, I just want to get thoughts from each of you on the one skill or the one hobby that you took up in the last year. A lot of people have been sharing their lockdown experiences. As we wrap up this fascinating discussion, I'm sort of going to go around and ask each one of you. So maybe Leena, you can start.
Yeah, I actually used to paint, and I took that up after many years because it requires some dedicated time and for you to do the entire setup. So I actually took an opportunity in the lockdown to create that whole setup and start painting again. So it was very
Right.
calm.
Shilpa?
What we missed essentially being with each other and celebrating with each other. So what we did as a team is do a lot of lot of video parties. So we did things like dress up parties. So we had everybody dressed up, and we had people dressed up as Hulk and pirates, and a lot of those. So it was fun. And then we host virtual dance parties every alternate Fridays, which is again a lot of fun. So how do you kind of get people together and have a lot of creative ways in which you can engage with them and have fun while at work, because you miss all those lunchtime conversations.
Yeah.
You miss all just being together and having fun. So that's, I think, something that we focused and did it, and it was really fun.
Right. Shalini?
Cooking. And that is something that I had not done in all these years, trying out something new. And not cooked for a long while.
So what was your
I think I
signature
did a lot of
dish?
cooking. No signature dish, just tried a lot of things,
Prabha, I'm going to let you have the last word.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about cooking too, but not just about me cooking, but cooking with my son, because my son
Oh,
discovered
lovely.
he's a student, engineering student. He discovered his love for cooking during the pandemic because I told the children, you own the kitchen. I don't have time. I have a lot of work. so 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 the most thing I enjoy now is actually cooking with him. So that's a very nice experience.
That's amazing. Maybe we will see a mother-son, YouTube series or a YouTube channel coming up soon. You should think about doing that. But on that note, thank you all very much, Prabha, Shalini, Shilpa, and Leena, for spending time with us, taking us through your experiences. It's personally been very energizing for me to see four women who've stayed the course and climbed up the ladder through decades. And I hope it will inspire many women in the workforce to really stay the course, because as the women on this panel said, it's about what you want, and if you really want it, you can get it. It's about prioritizing and striking a fine balance as they have. So thank you very much for joining us for this special discussion on money control.